So the first thing that I'm going to show you how to crochet are your bra cups. Now for your starting chain, you're gonna wanna measure from like the middle of your boob to right around your armpit area. And I'll show you a clip of what I mean exactly, like what part I'm measuring. Hello, it's me. Okay, don't mind the boxes in the back. We're currently using some boxes as our coffee table, so don't mind that. Did I partially come on because I wanted to show my new shirt? Yes, I did, I'll be honest. But I mostly just wanted to show you guys how I measure, like what I mean for measuring the bra cup. I'm still like in the middle of filming it, but. So what you are looking for is basically going from like the middle of your boobie to just about sort of where you would want the top to be. So like for me, I'm kind of imagining that there's this line going straight down from my armpit. So if we take that measurement, that's about 3.5 inches, which is about, you know, that first initial length for my bra cup, or at least like that starting chain. For me, that's about 20 chains. And again, with this crochet stitch, once you wash, block, wear it a few times, the stitch will stretch over time. And so that's just something to be a little wary of. I have seen some comments of people being like, I made this top and then I wore it a couple times, or I washed it and then it stretched out. I would always recommend doing a tension gauge swatch. Maybe I'll make a video about like how the basics work with fitting garments. But generally speaking, when I make my crochet garments, I do aim to make them a bit tighter on the first go around because I know that it'll stretch a bit over time. So yeah, that's just kind of the nature of crochet and knit garments generally. And for me, that's like about 3.25 to 3.5 inches. And for me, with my tension, my yarn, my hook, all of that, that means that I'm going to start off with a chain of 20. When you are working the Suzette stitch, which is the stitch that this top is made of, you are going to want to start off with an even number of chains. So if you need to adjust the pattern for your sizing, just make sure that you are working with just make sure that you're starting off with an even number of chains. I'm going to do a knotless slip knot, and to do that, I'm going to wrap around my yarn around my hook like so, and then I'm just gonna twist my hook once, and I'm just gonna kind of like pinch, like grab that little twist right there, and then I'm gonna start chaining. So to chain, you wrap your yarn around once and then you pull through. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And now I'm gonna work through the backs of my chains. If that gets too confusing, you can just go ahead and kind of do like the standard, like going through this part of your chain. I just find that when I work through the backs of my chains for the bra cups, there's like less gapping, there's like fewer holes in my actual bra cup. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. So to work through the back of your chain, you're gonna slightly twist your work. You're gonna see this little bump back here, and you're going to insert your hook into that little bump. And now the first thing that we are going to do is make a single crochet. So wrap your yarn around once, pull up, wrap again, and then pull through both loops. So that's a single crochet. And now we're going to create a double crochet in the exact same stitch. So to create a double crochet, wrap around once, insert your hook into the same exact stitch, wrap around again, pull up, wrap around, pull through 2 of your loops, wrap on once more, and then pull through your last 2 loops. And that's how you create a double crochet stitch. Now, the Suzette stitch is basically just that. You are going to create a single crochet and a double crochet in the same stitch. And then you are going to skip a stitch. So I'm going to skip this next chain, and then I'm going to go into my next one, in through the back, and I create a single crochet, and then I create a double crochet. Just like so. Again, skip, and then in the next one, single crochet, and a double crochet. Once more, skip, single, and then a double. And I'm going to repeat that until I get to the end of my row. Okay, now I have reached the end of my row, and I'm going to insert my hook into the last little stitch here, and I'm going to create my final Suzette stitch. Okay, so that is what the end of that initial row should look like. Now, this is basically where the top, or like the center of your bra cup is going to be. And so in order to create that center, and in order to like start increasing our bra cup here, I'm going to insert an additional single crochet. So 1 more crochet in the exact same stitch that, I worked my last pair of stitches. I'm going to take a little stitch marker. For my purposes, I'm going to use a bobby pin. I have actual stitch markers. I find that with thinner yarns, I actually prefer using a bobby pin, a hairpin, just because I think that it's a little bit easier to maneuver with thinner yarns. But whatever stitch markers you got on hand. I'm going to go ahead and mark that stitch, and then I'm going to insert my hook into that same stitch, create a single crochet and a double crochet, and I'm basically going to go back through this initial chain to create my next sort of row. For me, this is all one row, but I just don't want it to get super confusing. And then also, I would tug at your end just to tighten it up. And I hate weaving in ends with a burning passion. And so I like to figure out ways to weave in my ends as I go. So I'm gonna go ahead and hold my end as such, and I'm going to crochet it into my work. And so we're gonna skip a chain. And if it gets kind of confusing on this initial sort of chain/stitches, you are always going to work your stitches into a previously worked double crochet. And with your double crochet, that tends to leave a bigger stitch chain gap, if you will. And so you can see here that that's my single crochet. And I'm going to skip that and go into my double. And again, I'm making sure to place my end right there so I can crochet around it to secure it, creating a single crochet and then a double crochet in the same exact stitch. And then you're going to skip, create a single crochet, and then a double crochet. And again, we're going to skip, single crochet, and then a double crochet. And now I've arrived at my last stitch. So I'm going to finish off by creating my single and my double. And then I'm going to chain 1, turn my work. This is what the end of that first initial row should be looking like. And now, again, just like I said, you are only ever gonna work your stitches into a previously worked double crochet stitch. So I've chained one and I'm going to go into my very first stitch. And I'm going to continue on my Suzette stitch. Skip one, go into my double crochet and work that. Okay, so now I've reached my stitch marker, so I'm gonna go ahead and take that out, aka like the, additional single crochet that I created. And in there, I'm going to sort of complete this side of the row by inserting a single crochet, and then a double crochet, and then again, one single crochet, sort of as the top or center, whatever. And then I'm gonna go ahead and start my Suzette stitches again, and in the same stitch, do a single and then a double. So essentially in that top slash center stitch, that's just your single crochet, you should be inserting 5 stitches into that one stitch. Okay, and then this is also a part where it gets a little tricky. But again, just remember what I said. For the Suzette stitch, you are always going to work your stitches into a previously worked double crochet stitch. And because of that, with this one, we actually don't start off with skipping a stitch because that is the double crochet, the immediate next stitch. So we're gonna go into that next stitch, create our single and our double. And then you can go ahead and start skipping that chain or that stitch and go in the next double crochet in order to make our Suzette stitch. All right, and that was the last stitch for this row. So that's about what she should be looking like. And I'm going to chain 1, turn my work, and just repeat that sequence over and over and over again until you have a bra cup that covers your boob. So yeah, just make sure to try it on for size, make sure that it's fitting you or whoever you're making this for, and I will see you once I am done with this bra cup. So I finished my first bra cup, and I have 40 stitches each on each side. And so in total, I believe I did 10 rows. Now, with making your bra cups, you are gonna want to ensure that you have a multiple of 4 as like your final row. Because when we're attaching the bra cup to like the rest of the front of the top, we're going to be attaching it in multiples of 4. So just make sure that it is a multiple of 4, so like 40, 44, 48, 52, you get it. And just for reference, that means that like from this tip to the edge, it's about 6 1/4 inches for me. And from end to end here, that is about 5 1/4. So making sure that the bra cup, covers everything that needs to be covered. Make sure that you are trying it on or you're, sizing it for whoever you're making this for. But yeah, that is how you make a bra cup. I'm gonna go ahead and make that second bra cup. I also detached my yarn. I broke my yarn, making sure to give myself a few inches of like leftover yarn to weave in later. But yeah, so I have 40 stitches, and then this is 41. And I'll be right back once I finish my second bra cup. With the second bra cup, don't break the yarn. First one, break the yarn. Second one, don't break the yarn. I've finished my second bra cup, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to chain 1, turn my work, And I'm just gonna slip stitch through that bottom row until I get to the center, back to my stitch marker. And the reason why I'm gonna do that is because I want to work from like the edge of my shirt in the front, and then back to this like edge on the bra cup, and then create the back, and then I connect the second bra cup. In order to do a slip stitch, you are just gonna go through and insert your hook underneath the stitch, wrap around once, and then pull through. And you're going to slip stitch every single stitch along this edge. Okay, so this is my very last slip stitch. And then from here, I'm going to create a chain of 64. 64 is a little arbitrary if I'm being real with you. It's just that I, experimented with the length of this top, and 64 was like a good length for me personally. You can play with it all you want. I knew that I wanted 7 buttons along the front edge. And so for me, that means that I'm gonna do like 4 stitches on the bottom, and then a button, skip 10, a button, skip 10, a button, etc., 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 etc. That'll make a lot more sense when we're like actually adding the buttons. I'm going to be doing 64 stitches. If you want to alter the length of the shirt, just make sure that you are working in an even number of stitches so that, it can work with the Suzette stitch. But other than that, you can totally alter like how many buttons you want to add, how much space you want between the buttons, etc., etc. But for reference, I'm doing a 64. Okay, so that is 64 chains for me. And what I'm going to do is kind of turn my bra cup over, and I'm going to work into the backs of my chains, just like we did our bra cups, making sure to skip that first chain and working a Suzette stitch. And I'm really just going to work up that chain until I get back to my bra cup, and I will be back to show you how I attach it to the bra cup. And then now, in order to attach sort of the bottom of my front piece to the actual bra cup, I am going to slip stitch 4 stitches along the bottom. And like, just as a sanity check before you start slipping and like attaching and doing all that, I would go ahead and like literally count out 4 and make sure that you don't have like a random like couple of stitches left, because that probably indicates that your stitch count is a little off. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm good. So I'm gonna go into my very first stitch here. I'm gonna go ahead and put my hook underneath that first stitch and just slip it on. And when I am slip stitching these stitches, I'm making sure to kind of keep my tension pretty tight, just because I don't want a lot of gapping in between that bottom panel and the bra cup. So go ahead and slip, slip, slip. Turn my work. And now I'm going to be creating decreases on the top as well as the bottom of this row. And to create the decreases, I'm going to go into my very first double crochet stitch. I'm going to pull up a loop and then skip a stitch, going into my next double crochet stitch, picking up a loop, so I have 3, and then wrap my yarn around once and then pull through all 3. And then put 1 double crochet into that stitch. So you've now just decreased by 2 stitches. And then I'm going to skip a stitch, go into my next double crochet, and continue my Suzette stitch as normal. So my camera died there, but basically all I was saying was that you just want to continue until you have 4 stitches left / 2 double crochets to work into. Okay, so now I am at my last 4 stitches / I have 2 double crochet stitches left. And I'm going to create another decrease by inserting my hook into my first double crochet, pulling up a loop, going into my next double crochet, pulling up another loop, and then wrapping my yarn around and pulling through all 3, and then creating a double crochet to finish off the row. Chain 1, turn your work. And then when you're working back up, like back from the bottom of the row, when you're going from here back to here, you're not going to be creating any decreases. You're just going to do a standard Suzette stitch until you get back up to your bra cup. And then once you're at your bra cup, you slip stitch 4 and turn your work, make your decrease, continue, make your decrease, etc. So if you're ever like, what's going on? Where am I? If you are going up to the bra cup, work as usual, no decreases. If you are working from the bra cup down, that's when you're going to create your decreases. So yeah, I will meet you guys back up when I am done with all my rows. All right, so I have finished my last row of like attaching the bra cup. This is the front, so you can see it's all attached. And that is the bottom of my front panel. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm basically going to do a regular Suzette stitch all the way up. Oh, and just for reference, right now on this like bottom panel portion, I have 24 stitches. And then I'm gonna go ahead and make the Suzette stitch and just like work up this row, if that makes sense. So from here, I'm gonna go ahead and just, oh well, I need to make 1 turning chain and then turn my work. And then from here, I'm gonna go ahead and work my Suzette stitch. So I've just finished the last stitch on like the bottom portion of my front. And what I'm gonna do actually is I kind of have like this space where the bra cup and the top meet. And basically I'm just gonna go ahead and put my hook in through there and give myself a Suzette stitch. And then we see on the side of the bra cup, we have like these like scalloped edges, if you will. And I'm gonna go ahead and go through sort of the left side of each like bumpy area. So if you look here, it kind of looks like, this will focus. I have this like area right here where I can kind of put my hook underneath. This isn't like an exact science, honestly. This is the portion where like you kind of gotta work into it and see where the stitches are gonna be best for you. Just so that when you do kind of look at it, you're not having like a lot of gapping in between stitches or anything. And from here, I'm gonna go ahead and like this is kind of like counting as like my first like single crochet that I skip. So I'm going to skip that stitch and then go ahead into the next portion. And then again, I'm going to skip that like right side of the hump and then go ahead and insert my hook into the left side. And then you are just going to continue connecting this like row to your bra cup as you see fit. And then you may or may not, like depending on your tension, need to add a couple more stitches here and there. That's totally good. My only thing that I would note is you note how many stitches, like how many pairs of stitches that you are putting in, just so that when you are connecting this bra cup, like your other bra cup, you know approximately how many like pairs you're also going to need to join there. My only suggestion for like when you are kind of putting your stitches in is that you are putting your stitch underneath 2 strands of yarn. So like for instance, I would not just go underneath one because I feel like that just gives like a bigger gap in your work. So I would highly recommend that you aim to put your work underneath 2 strands, just like so. Okay, so I have created my like last row, and just for reference as well, so I had 24 stitches here, and as for like attaching the bra cup, I've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26. So from here, you know, I've chained 1, I'm going to turn my work, and I'm just going to repeat the Suzette stitch over and over and over and over and over again until I create a back panel that fits me, that fits your model, fits whoever you're making this for. And yeah, there's no increases or decreases, you're just working a standard Suzette stitch over and over and over again until you get to where you are going to attach your second bra cup. Okay, so I've finished my back panel. For reference, I have crocheted 41 rows of my Suzette stitch, and I would recommend that you work an odd number of rows because now we're going to attach the bra cup. And with the way that I attach the bra cup, I am very particular about the seaming. So if you see here, on this is like the inside of my work basically. And from what we can see here, this is the slip stitch seam. And you can kind of see that it has like this ridge to it. If it's not like the end of the world if you don't get this direction like completely right. It's just that some seams are a little bit more obvious than others, especially because we are kind of working basically with one working yarn. Like I'm not trying to cut and reattach a lot of yarns. So I'm being a lot more particular about the order in which I'm adding different components. But you can see like on this side, the seam is a lot more apparent than it is on here. And I just like this sort of flatter, seamless side a little bit better. And if you like the seam side, maybe you do even numbers and then you work up. Anyways, if you want the seamless, work an odd number. So I have 41, and for reference, that is just about 10 inches across. One thing too I will say about this top, because I have made it before and I've tested it out and experimented it, it does stretch a little over time after a couple wears. I've worn this top a few times. I always try to like wear my design out a couple of times and then wash it just to see how it stretches over time. And the first go around when I made this, I actually did more rows than this, and it's actually a little big on me now, whereas I wanted a little bit more form-fitting. So just keep in mind that if it is a bit tight on that first wear, first I would definitely recommend washing and blocking it. But moreover, the stitch will stretch over time and with wears and washes, and so I would just be a little mindful of that. But anyways, I am doing 41 rows, and then I go ahead and make a chain, turn my work. And you'll start to kind of see what I mean by like the seam is a bit more apparent on this side. If it's not a big deal to you, it's not a big deal. So yeah, it's totally, you're the designer, it's your choice. So I've gone ahead and I've chained one. So now I'm going to go into my first stitch like as per usual. And then I'm gonna start attaching my bra cup right away. I'm gonna go ahead and go underneath the first sort of stitch that I see here. And again, this isn't like the most exact science. I'm just making sure that I go under a couple of yarn strands because I find that that's more secure. It leads to less gapping, which I like. And I'm going to go ahead and pull my yarn through both of those stitches in order to attach it. Give myself a single crochet, and then I'm going to go ahead and do my double into the exact same stitch that I have that first single. Okay, and then I skip a stitch, insert into my next stitch. I skip that first little hump there, and then I go into my next little stitch area. And one thing to be mindful of is, I noted when we attached this first bra cup to note how many stitches you have here. For me, I worked 26 stitches to attach my bra cup here, and so I'm going to ensure that I am working an equivalent 26 stitches to attach this bra cup. So I just worked 2. This would be 4. Skip. Kind of skip that next little hump area. And go ahead in there. Okay, and you'll start seeing what I mean by you have a more visible seam on this side. The stitches kind of here, there's a bit more of a seam here, whereas on your other side, I would consider this like the right side up, you're just seeing a very seamless connection right there, whereas here, it's a little bumpy. So that's why I'm a bit more particular about like which row, I'm attaching this on, but honestly, it's not super apparent, so it's not like the end of the world if you attach it, on a different row, like it's fine. Point is you are attaching your bra cup at this moment. And I think maybe now you can see a lot more of like that very visible seam right here on this side. So yeah. you are going to attach your bra cup, and then you are then going to work the rest. For me, that would be 24 stitches on this bottom part. You're gonna work the rest of that down. Another tip too that I would say, if you're like, I don't want to count because I'm lazy. I get it. I totally get it. What I would do in that case, then I would go ahead and count the number of stitches that you know that you need for like the bottom panel to be like symmetrical to the other side. So like I know that I did 24 on this bottom portion. So I'm gonna count out 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. Okay. So I know that basically my bra cup should attach to here, and that's kind of where that connection should be. And then that way too, I kind of have a guide as I'm going to attach my bra cup. But yeah, once I'm done with this row, I will be right back. And then, okay, so I've attached my bra cup. She's looking, oh, you can't see it. She's looking very good, very attached. And then I very also purposefully put the end that I like snipped off the bra cup on the bottom, because now I'm incorporating it into my actual work. So I'm weaving in my ends as I go, because like I said earlier, I absolutely hate weaving in my ends. It is the bane of my existence. And so again, I am just holding it close to my actual work and crocheting around it, as you can see. Just figured I'd pop in and give you that little tidbit. From here, I'm basically going to be doing increases in order to get to my original 64 stitches by the time I get to my stitch marker. So I'm gonna do the same process where as I go up, I'm gonna do, as I go up towards the bra cup, I'm just doing my regular Suzette stitch, no increases yet. And then on the way back down, I'm gonna be doing my increases. So I've reached my bra cup, and now I'm gonna do the exact same process where I slip 4 stitches on. Go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm gonna flip my work, and then it's on the way down I am going to do my increases. So increasing is pretty easy. All you gotta do is go into your very first stitch, give yourself a Suzette stitch, and then you're gonna do another pair in the same exact stitch. And then, yeah, you've just increased by 2. And you're gonna do your standard Suzette stitch all the way back down. Personally, I like increases a little bit better because I find that I have to think a little less. Because with decreases, like you have to stop yourself like 4 stitches, you know, before the end, or like 2 double crochets before the end, you know? Whereas with increasing, once I get down there, so I've arrived at my last stitch, and now that I'm at my last stitch, I get to just put in a stitch as per usual, and then just simply put in another pair into the same exact stitch. Chain 1, turn your work. And yeah, you've just increased by 4 in this row. And then you are going to go ahead and do your regular, and then all the way down you're going to increase, yada 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 yada, until you reach the tip center, midway point of your bra cup. And yeah, my bottom panel of my front is all done. It's all attached beautifully, and I have the correct stitch count. So when I line it up, they are identical. which is great. Always good to do like little sanity checks as you're working. So basically what I'm gonna do for my buttonholes, I kind of mentioned it before, but what I'm gonna do is at this very bottom here, I'm gonna leave 4 stitches and then place a buttonhole, work 10, place a buttonhole, work 10, buttonhole, etc, etc, etc. What I'm gonna do is I've chained 1 and turned my work, and I'm going to work 4 stitches. So that is 2 and 4. So this is my 4th stitch. To create my buttonholes, I'm going to be chaining 3. So 1, 2, 3. So I've chained 3 for my buttonhole, and then I'm gonna go ahead and, you know, skip the next stitch, and I'm just continuing the Suzette stitch as normal. So in goes a single crochet and then a double crochet, and then I'm going to work 10 stitches. So 2, 4, 6, 8, and then 10. So I've worked 10 stitches, and then I'm going to create another buttonhole. So chain 3 and skip a stitch, continue working just my regular Suzette stitch, making sure to leave 10 stitches and then creating my buttonhole. So I've just finished my last 10 stitches, and again, I love doing my little sanity checks. So I'm gonna make sure that I have 6 buttonholes so far, because I'm about to make my 7th and my last. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Awesome. Okay, I'm gonna create my last little chain. So 1, 2, 3. And then where my stitch marker is where I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch. And then at this point, I can actually finally take out my stitch marker. It's not really necessary anymore. So I've created my last buttonhole, and I've slip stitched it to my stitch marker, therefore attaching it to the rest of my work. And from here, it might seem a little unconventional, it might seem a little unnecessary, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and slip stitch the entire top border of my top. And that's because I've just found that because I've made this top before, I had a side where I actually did slip stitch it, whereas I had a side that I didn't slip stitch it. And I found that the side that I didn't slip stitch it, when I added the ruffles and the straps, it was actually kind of heavy and it flopped over, whereas I found that slip stitching it across gave it a little bit more structure and allowed for the bra cup to stay upright instead of just like falling right over because of the weight of the ruffles and the straps. Also, I would probably recommend, like, if you actually need support for your chest, I do not. So I'm pretty much okay with it, but if you need support for your chest, then I would really suggest that you crochet in some underwire in order to like help this stay more upright. Fortunately, or potentially unfortunately, I don't really have that issue. So my best like kind of solution for it, just to give the top a little bit more structure, is to go ahead and slip stitch all of the top stitches until I get back over here. And then that's where I'm gonna show you how to attach your buttons onto this side. You might find this step a little unnecessary and like kind of tedious. I know that I do, but I promise it does give you just a bit more structure on the top. So that's what I'm going to do next. So I've completed the slip stitch across the top of my top, and now I'm at my stitch marker and I've slipped it in there. But basically I am ready to add my buttons. So to do that, you are gonna need a little tapestry needle, and you are gonna need your little buttons. I have these beautiful little pearl buttons. Tip, you are gonna wanna make sure that your tapestry needle goes all the way through your buttons. This might seem obvious to you, but I made the mistake of only having really thick buttons that would not go through my buttonholes. So make sure that it fits, otherwise this trick is not gonna work. There's a couple of different ways that you can add buttons into your crochet work. In fact, if you saw my backless crochet top, I think I actually pre-strung the buttons onto my yarn. That method is good when you have like a thicker, sturdier yarn, so that as you're working and your buttons are sliding around on the yarn, it's not necessarily like really weakening the yarn. As you can tell, I'm working with a very thin yarn, and because of that, if I pre-strung all of my buttons, the weight and then like the friction of the buttons moving around would weaken and or entirely rip my yarn. So when that is the case, like when I have a thinner yarn, I will actually string it using this method instead. In order to string my button, or to attach my button, I'm gonna take my tapestry needle, I'm gonna go onto the yarn a bit away from my hook. I'm gonna scrunch it up and then go ahead and kind of put that through my tapestry needle. Cool. And then I'm gonna go ahead and go through my button with that. And then you can remove your needle. So, awesome, cool. Now I need to go into my first stitch that I'm gonna work in here. So that's my double crochet stitch. And I'm gonna go ahead and kind of tighten very carefully my yarn that is now threaded through my button. Now the yarn that, like, when you're pulling this from the, ball of yarn, you're gonna see that one side is being tugged, right? That side should be on top. So as you can see, I am putting it onto my hook and I'm tightening, tightening, tightening very, very carefully so that you don't, lose your button and your mind. And then I'm gonna go ahead and tighten, tighten, tighten. And I'm going to bring that up through. Kind of position your button in the way that you need it, which is like right side up. And then I'm gonna go ahead and finish up my single crochet. And you've now attached a button. So now I'm going to finish off this stitch by double crocheting sort of around that button. So now that is 2 stitches you have worked. So in between buttons, I'm actually going to work 8 stitches. So then like on the 10th stitch, you are adding your button. So that was 2 stitches essentially. And now that's 4, and this is 6. This is 8. Okay, so that's 10, or essentially that's 2, 4, 6, 8 in between buttons where it's not like super obvious, because like I've worked 2 stitches behind this button back here. Sounds a little confusing, I know, but if you kind of slightly mess up the count, then your buttons are not going to exactly match the placement of your buttonholes, so I would just be very cognizant of that. But basically, either way you want to see it, whether you want to see this as, I tend to see this as like, this is my 10th stitch worked, and so my next 10 is where I'm starting the button, or if you want to see it that you're working your button into the 10th stitch, I suppose that works. Whatever makes more sense to you. But now I'm ready to add another button. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same exact process where I go a little ways away from my hook and then thread my yarn into my needle. And then I'm going to go ahead and string my yarn through my button and remove my needle. And then being cognizant of where my working yarn is coming from. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my hook into my next stitch and then picking that up so that my working yarn is on top. Tightening, tightening, tightening very carefully. I kind of use my finger as a little stopper here so that the button doesn't fly out. And then going ahead and kind of positioning where I want that button to be, which is right side up. And then making sure that I have a fairly tight tension with this as well is, I think, pretty key. And then completing my double crochet sort of around that button towards the back. So that is 2 essentially, and then go ahead and work your total of 10 stitches. So I'm now ready to add my last button, and then I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of insert that right there and thread my yarn through this needle. Also, I'm like so sorry if my filming setup is not ideal and you can hear a lot of background noise right now, because I can hear a lot of background noise. AKA, I think one of my neighbors has their window open and is like taking a business call. IDK. They've just been like really loud. And I'm really hoping that I can kind of edit it out. Oh my gosh. But yeah, this setup is like not permanent. I just moved into this new apartment, so we'll have to play around with it. But also, my desk right now is facing the sunlight, and so the glare is driving me a little crazy. Beautiful sunlight, don't get me wrong, but the glare is really kind of hurting my eyes at the end of the day. Anyways, going ahead and adding that last little button in. So that is 2 and then 4 for me. Okay, so yeah, all my buttonholes do correspond really well with my actual button placements, so I'm all good there. And now it is time to add some beautiful little ruffles. And let me show you how I do that. So the first thing I'm gonna do is give myself 3 chains. 2, 3. Then I'm gonna go ahead and wrap 2 times. I'm also gonna kind of position my shirt so it's a little bit easier to do this. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is go in through the bottom edge. And again, there's not like a really good justification for where I'm putting my hook in. I'm kind of like going as I think it makes sense. But I'm gonna go ahead and, but the only other tip is, again, I am gonna suggest that you go through 2 strands of your yarn instead of 1, just because I find that going under 1 leaves for a lot of gapping. Then I'm gonna go ahead and pull up my yarn and then go ahead and go through 2, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2, and then I'm gonna go ahead and give myself 1 chain. Again, wrap twice, and they go in the same stitch. And when you're doing this, honestly, I would really recommend that you do not have a tight tension. Because the tighter it is, I feel like the less, I don't know, with ruffles, I feel like you kind of want it to be flowy, you want it to like go with the wind a little bit, but when you have a really tight tension when you're making these ruffles, they'll be quite stiff, and so I really recommend keeping kind of a looser tension on this, and then going ahead and making another chain, and basically I'm doing, is this a treble crochet? It's 1 more than a double, so I'm gonna guess this is a treble crochet. But I'm doing 3 treble crochets into the same stitch with 1 chain in between each treble. So that is how I make one little ruffle, if you will. And then I'm going into sort of the next little area that I see fit. And then, yep, there we go. And then doing the same thing. So that ruffle effect is going to be from putting in multiple treble crochets into the same stitch. And so you can really play around with this technique in order to make whatever kind of ruffle that you want. If you want it even more ruffly, try adding more treble crochets, or maybe take away the little chains in between and just do treble crochets, just 5 of them in one place, right? If you want a little less ruffly, you can do fewer. It's very much up to you and what your heart desires. I've just found that this is the design and the style that I personally really like. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. So I've marked where I want my strap to start right here. And then I'm gonna go ahead and give myself a little slip knot. For reference, I am working 30 stitches in from my little center / corner area here. And I'm gonna start off with 10 stitches. So I'm gonna go ahead and slip my slip knot on, and then come up. And then I'm going to go ahead and weave my end in, or crochet my end in as I go. And then right now for the first thing, I'm just going to chain 1. And honestly, I'm just gonna kind of count that as my first single crochet stitch, and then give myself a double crochet in the same stitch. And then I'm gonna skip and then go ahead and crochet 10 stitches. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and crochet 10 stitches. And basically what I'm gonna do is sorry, I get really distracted whenever I crochet. Basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do 4 rows of 10, 4 rows of 12, 4 rows of 14, and then for the rest I'm gonna do 16. And then that way I just have a slow increase the way that I want it. 2, 4, 6, 8, and then that would be 10. So that's 10 right there. And then I'm gonna go ahead and give myself 1 turning chain, turn my work, and then go ahead and do a secondary row. And then I'm going to chain 1 and turn my work. But before I actually turn my work, one thing that I'm gonna note is that I'm gonna start making increases. But like I said earlier, I'm only gonna make increases on the side that's on the inside / closer to my neck, if that makes sense. I want, if we're looking at, and we are looking at the front of the top, the front? Yes, front of the top. Also, if you hear crunching in the back, my dog is eating kibble, so excuse that. But basically, I'm going to create increases on this side. So on what would be my left strap, I'm going to create increases on the left side right here. And if that gets confusing, just make sure that you're trying it on for size and to see and reference what direction and orientation everything is for you. But essentially towards the neck area, towards my chest, that part of the strap is where I'm going to be making the increases, and then this side is just going to be straight up. So whenever I make an increase, I'm increasing by 2. essentially I'm going to flip my work and then put an extra 2 stitches in here on this side. That's 4 stitches in 1 stitch. And then go ahead and work this as normal. And yeah, you were really just going to create those increases on that side until you have a thickness that you like. And again, you can increase this at a different rate, meaning like you can just do 2 rows per increase, you can do 6 rows per increase. I'm doing 4 rows per increase, and then once I get to 16, which is like that final width that I like for the strap, I'm just going to continue that until it goes around my shoulder, and then I can connect it to the back. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've finished my sleeve. I've essentially done 4 rows of 10, 4 rows of 12, 4 rows of 14, and then for my rows of 16, I've done 19 rows in total. What I would recommend, especially like if you are, par for par following my stitches and all of that, what I would really recommend is that you do an odd number of rows for the last bit of your strap, and then you're gonna mark out where you want to connect your strap. However, the reason why I say that is because, again, we are just being a little cognizant of which side our seaming is going to be on. So if I did an even number of rows, then once I connect it to here, if I go this way out, then my seam will be visible on the outside, which it's not a big deal. It's not that visible. It's just that it would drive me crazy. So I am going to, I'm just a little cognizant of that. And because of that, I'm gonna work an odd number of rows so that I can slip stitch seam inwards here. And then the seam will be on the inside of the garment. Okay, so I kind of marked out from this corner to where I would want to attach it to the back. And the nice thing about having slip stitch seamed the top is that you have very visible stitches. So even though I'm not attaching this corner to this corner, I know that I have 16 stitches across, so I can go ahead and count the number of stitches from here, just because this was I'm trying it on myself and trying to measure it on myself, so I can't reach the other side, so I'm gonna go ahead and count out there. Okay, so I've gone ahead and counted out to 16 here. And again, the only reason I did that was because when I tried this on and I was pulling the strap to where I'd want it to attach to the back, I can't really reach. I'm pretty flexible, honestly, but I can't reach all the way back there very well. So I just did to the closer side, and then the nice part about having slip stitch seamed at that top is that you can see those stitches really visibly, really easily. So it's a lot easier to attach. All right, so. Okay, now, I'm gonna make sure that my orientation of my strap is right. Whenever I'm doing my work, I try to imagine it on in order to get that orientation just right. And then in order to make this kind of easier on me, I'm gonna actually kind of flip my work. And I'm gonna go ahead and double check. Okay. And I'm gonna go ahead and put my hook through my first stitch. Hopefully not get my yarn all twisted. That would be nice. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and put my hook underneath of my first little stitch here, and then going into my first stitch marker right there. I'm gonna go ahead and take the stitch marker out just because it's quite thick. And then going ahead and doing a slip stitch seam. 1, 2. And then the next thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and actually just create ruffles on this like inside of my sleeve. So I've finished the ruffling on this side, and now I've gone ahead and marked where I want my strap to begin on my other side, aka my side with my buttonholes. And it's really just going to be the exact same process, but your increases are, instead of being on this side, you are going to be doing it on this side. So right, just remember that you are going to create your increases on the side that is closer to your neck. Again, if you want that shape, this part, you know, you can do whatever you want to do. But if you want the straps to kind of create that silhouette, similar to mine, then you are going to create the increases on this side, which is the side closer to your neck. So I've gone ahead and I've made my second strap and I've attached it. As for the rest of the top, I only have to make some ruffling around like the inside, this neckline, basically, like inside the straps and then on the neckline. And then I'll probably just detach the yarn, and then I'll go ahead and finish off the ruffling on the inside of this sleeve. Here is the finished and final product. I love her. Honestly, I really want to make a version in black yarn using like black little pearls, and then like take away the ruffles, I think, because I kind of want to make like a more sleeker version. I kind of asked everyone on my TikTok before I released this tutorial on like what they thought about the ruffles, and everybody was like pro ruffles, but honestly, we're getting into like the witchier, moodier fall vibes. I want to make a black version that's like sleek, kind of witchy, you know? But I really like this top. Let me know if you have any questions below. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this as much as I did. Thank you so much for watching. Happy crocheting. If you like this, make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe for more. And yeah, I'll see you guys later. Bye.